What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have Bitcoin still consolidating down a little under 1%. Ethereum down over 3%, pulling back after quite a bit of a run up there. So not too surprising to see. Total 3, which is altcoin market cap excluding Ethereum, also pulling back quite a bit. Okay, we did have quite a bit of a run up. We're going to take a look into the charts and see where the markets are in more detail. Okay, so we also have the stock market, of course, that is currently up, which is good because the stock market is usually a front-running signal for Bitcoin, which is basically the driver of the altcoin markets, of the crypto markets. If Bitcoin dumps, your altcoins are most likely going to be dumping as well, at least eventually, okay? In a few days' time, okay, it would follow Bitcoin. Now, we're going to be taking a look into a few altcoins here, including Chainlink, see what the price estimate is in the short term based on the charts. We're going to be taking a look into CoreDAO, see what has gone on in this market. Also going to be taking a look into ICP, Internet Explorer, see some of these setups for these bigger altcoins because some haven't really done too much, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be ready to move sometime soon. And that's what we do on this channel here. We dive deep into the charts every day to find the moves before they actually happen, using technical analysis, using charts. So if you guys do want to learn technical analysis, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment on this channel, on this video, and you guys would be able to learn technical analysis based on what I'm doing here. Some of the key indicators, very simple and effective indicators to actually see this market, see these charts a lot more clearly for yourself so you can make actually much more informed entries and exits for yourselves based on the charts, right? And why are entries important? Because entries will give you a huge lead in your position, okay? And probably a more lower risk position than if you were chasing a higher high, okay? If you guys ever chase higher highs, chances are it's stressful, right? And chances are you're probably going to come back down to a higher low even in a uptrend, right? Unless, you're able to actually just time the higher high at the lower point of the higher high and actually take profits at the higher end of the higher high. But I mean, if you don't, then chances are you're still going to be coming down to a higher low, even in an uptrend. I personally like to enter on higher lows or double bottoms. Those are lower risk, but that is just me. None of what I'm saying here is financial advice. Now let's go ahead and dive into the charts and take a look into what's going on in this market, okay? Bitcoin here still consolidating, hourly time frame. What are we seeing here? We're seeing rejections after rejections at the 105 level, 105K level. All right, we had a huge wick. I mean, not that huge, but a very random wick. I remember that was like Sunday evening or Monday morning, where it looked like Bitcoin could have actually broken out, but got a rejection there. And what I'm seeing here is a potential cup and handle that is still forming, right? We have the cup portion of, let me see if I can draw this right now. This is basically what it could be happening, right? Okay, so when we get a small wick up against up on top of a resistance, which this time is going to be 105K, then I could still count this. I could still disregard that, right? I mean, it's going to be case by case scenario, but at least in my opinion here, I'm gonna disregard that, and I see this as a cup and handle pattern. And cup and handles are usually bullish, right? If we actually come all the way back up here one more time to touch the 105K, that would finish basically the entire pattern. And hypothetically, if that happens, the price target out of this pattern here, which is basically you take the neckline here, which is about 105, and then you measure it from there to the bottom of the pattern, which is about 101. Okay, you guys can see that. Put that back on top of the pattern here, and that will give you a price target. This is hypothetical. It still hasn't exactly formed yet, right? Basically, that would take you back up to the previous all-time high at about 110K, which looks like it could still be forming some type of a cup and handle pattern here on this weekly time frame. Okay, something to be paying attention to on the weekly time frame is that we are actually seeing some sell signals on this weekly time frame, and what I mean by that is there is divergence on this time frame here, right, where we have a higher high based on last week's candle close comparing to this high right here, right? We had a higher high, but we have a lower high on the RSI. That is the definition of divergence, okay? Which usually means that there's going to be a pullback. However, there are going to be, there's still a chance that, this signal gets invalidated. I can show you some examples, right? Going back to this previous breakout here, October, the week of November, first week of November, which is US election week here, right? We had a higher high, right? Comparing to these highs, but and we also had a lower high on the RSI, right? But it just kept going for a little bit more, right? So that could happen. I could point out other examples too, but that's gonna bore you guys, right? But there's gonna be examples. You guys can put it down in the comment section below if you guys want to see it. You guys can also put it in the comment section below if you guys have any technical analysis requests. I can pick one request every day and do it on this video for you guys. Any markets, altcoins, Bitcoin, stocks. I'm probably not as great with stocks, but I will read you the charts and give you my comments. Let's take a look into daily time frame. Daily time frame, Bitcoin still looks good. Okay, we are very well above the daily 200 SMA, which is the orange line here. Looks like we're going to get a golden cross sometime soon, but to me that doesn't really matter because it's a lagging indicator, right? I've also seen golden crosses get invalidated, death crosses get invalidated shortly after it crosses, meaning that the price action reverses after the cross. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter as much to me, okay? I like to read what potentially could happen, right? And on this daily time frame here, we are still very Bitcoin still looking very good. Okay, we are still above the daily 200 SMA, very good. Okay, and 3-day time frame, we still have a higher low. We had a higher low, and the price action is still going from that higher low. And why are higher lows important? Because in an uptrend, if you have a higher low, if you hold a higher low, you can expect a higher high. Okay, and we're kind of seeing that right now. We do need a pretty good move here, though, in order to invalidate this bearish signal, a bearish divergence on the 3-day time frame. Something to be looking out for. Now let's go on to other charts here. Total 3. Very important because this is the total altcoin market cap, excluding Ethereum. Okay, we have a higher low here still, right? We do have bearish divergence though, which signaled this red candle, right? But we're still above the daily 200. That is a solid close above the daily 200 SMA, and if we can hold that moving average, of course, there's going to be a lot of significance in that. Now we broke out of this falling wedge pattern, still going on this daily time frame. Measure move is going to be about 1.1 trillion, which can still do some pretty significant moves for some of these altcoins, smaller altcoins. Let's take a look into stock market. Stock market is important because it's usually a front-running signal for Bitcoin. Now, very important signal here for the stock market because we actually did close above the daily 200 SMA as well. Okay, so this is lagging behind Bitcoin a little bit because Bitcoin has been well above the daily 200 for a little while. And I encourage you guys to look up what the significance is when price action is trading above its daily 200. And we talked about this, right? This falling wedge measure move was 5,800. This is S&P 500 mini futures. And we have went above the price target there. So let me go ahead and invalidate this pattern. So I don't see any bearish signs coming from S&P 500 on this time frame. So let's go ahead and go on to Chainlink, see what is going on in this market, get a short-term price target estimate. Now, what I usually do when I look at an altcoin from scratch, and in this case, it's almost from scratch because I haven't traded or charted Chainlink for a little while. I look at the monthly time frame and see if this price action, if the monthly RSI is in overbought territory. Because when it's in overbought territory, that means it's coming pretty close to a potential peak. And when you're at a potential peak, you're more at risk of a dump. If you don't believe me, just look at any altcoins with an monthly RSI data back in 2020, 2021. Tell me what happens when their monthly RSI reading is in overbought territory. How long does it stay up there in overbought territory for? And what happens afterwards? Have you made your money back since if you had those altcoins when you bought those altcoins at a overbought territory if you held those positions? Now let's come over here to weekly time frame. All right, weekly time frame here. We do have this is a very familiar pattern, right? It looks like this price action has just broken out of this falling wedge pattern, which is going to be a very common pattern that you guys will see. Now, 3 candle touches on that time frame on a trend line validates that trend line. And we have 3 candle touches on both sides. It doesn't have to be super exact. And price target out of this falling wedge, falling channel, whatever you guys want to call it. You measure the opening of the pattern, put it on top of the breakout point. It looks like we actually do have a breakout here. And it's retesting that breakout point right now, okay? Measure move out of this pattern is going to be about $27, okay? That's, a pretty decent size measure target. Chainlink is a pretty big altcoin, so it's not going to move as crazy as the smaller altcoins, right? Now, it is at the weekly 21 that's SMA as resistance, okay? Let's take a look into, now, let me also mention this. Price targets are estimates only, okay? It could be more, it could be less, okay? It could, and, when the price action breaks out of a falling wedge, right? It usually breaks to the upside. You also got to account for a possible fake out, right? I've seen that happen. So something to be keeping in mind for risk management, right? Now, let's take a look into now if the price action actually reaches its price target, what happens? Well, what I would do is I would check into the lower time frames, right? And see what kind of pattern is it consolidating in to give me more clues on if the price action could be going higher or will it be pulling back from there. Let's take a look into the daily time frame. Not much you can really say about this except that it is having bearish divergence as well, which we are seeing a pullback here. It is at the daily 200 SMA as resistance. Let's take a look into a smaller time frame even and see if we can get any clues. This looks like it could be some type of a falling wedge pattern, right? Just an estimate, not actual. So we can come back next time and revisit this chart and see what came true and what hasn't. Let's take a look into ICP, see what's going on in here since the last time we talked about it. Weekly time frame. Still running within this falling wedge pattern, still very much in this falling wedge pattern I talked about. Right? Now, it did look like it broke out of a smaller falling wedge pattern, which we'll zoom in just a sec. But if it actually breaks out by this point, this is the weekly time frame. And if this pattern still stays intact, measure move is going to be about $25 for ICP, which is it's still a pretty decent sized move. So that's what I'm seeing for ICP, still at near the bottom of this pattern here. Daily time frame. See if we can see what's going on with this. Okay, we have bearish divergence playing out, right, with the red candle, and it looked like it did break out of a falling wedge, exceeded its price target. It's basically retesting that price target at about $5.50. 4-hour time frame. See if we can get any hint on what could be doing now. All right, this looks like it could be forming some type of a falling wedge as well. Just an estimate, not established. If you guys do want to see more of Chainlink, ICP, make sure to drop a like, comment. I will follow up on these coins with you guys next time. Okay, so this is what could be happening. Let's go to Core DAO. All right, this looks like another huge falling wedge pattern. Okay, you'll train your eyes to see this. Yep, it still hasn't broken out. We're gonna move this measure move down along this trend line because I don't think it's gonna break out next week. So move it along. If this pattern still stays intact, and if it breaks out by this point, that'll give us a measure move of about $3 and just right underneath $3.40. If it doesn't break out by this point, move it along the trend line. Okay. Daily time frame. Daily time frame. It looks like it has just gone above the daily 200 SMA. And it could be going back to retest it. That is pretty common to see when you see a price action goes above a resistance and then comes back to test that support. I usually like to enter at that support. Right, it's lower risk. Not no risk, but lower risk. Okay, it still depends on how you manage that position. So that's basically what I'm seeing for Core DAO. I think I am running out of time here. So let me look at a 4-hour chart. Looks like a very possible double bottom here. No, I think that's probably going to form some type of a falling wedge. Now, this wraps it up for the day. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time.